The Times of Troy. JuJu Watkins is the star, but USC knows it takes a team to win the title. Hello, and welcome to another week of the Times of Troy newsletter. I'm Ryan Koch, your USC beat writer at the Times, here to tell you that we have officially made it to March, the most joyous month in the college basketball calendar. And at USC, there's a lot to feel good about on the doorstep of the big dance. With another 30-point performance, her fourth, incredibly, in 5 tries against UCLA, JuJu Watkins once again proved that she is the best player in college basketball. On Saturday night, a raucous crowd at Pauley roared at her, praying she made a mistake, but Watkins still delivered like she always does, as USC secured its first conference title since 1994. No other team in the upcoming women's NCAA tournament will have a weapon quite like her. Her ability to get a bucket at every level, whether or not the defense is draped all over her, is unmatched in the sport. If USC is going to make a Final Four run, it will undoubtedly require Watkins at her best. Hard-hitting analysis, I know. But Watkins alone won't be enough, not over the course of an entire tournament. That's not news to Lindsay Gottlieb, USC's coach, who has been suggesting as much for months. A resounding win over UCLA on Saturday, one that should also lock up a No. 1 seed, would only make that point more clear. It literally took every single person, Gottlieb said. Watkins and Kiki Iriafen, of course, will always lead the way. They figured out how to better play off of each other, and both just happened to be playing their best basketball at the right time. These two are unguardable, Gottlieb said. We just know there's no matchups for them. And when opposing teams have to overcompensate for either of the Trojan stars, like they so often do, USC has a full complement of other weapons that Gottlieb trusts to meet the moment. When all those moving parts are in concert, the Trojans can't be touched. That's what happened Saturday. Senior Rhea Marshall has been a steadying force on both ends, filling in wherever she's needed. Avery Howell is always flying open off of screens at the arc, and has been USC's best shooter from deep, 40%, making her role vital come tournament time. Kennedy Smith is a lockdown perimeter defender and a decent shooter from deep, whose contributions could be critical in the coming weeks. Kaylee Heckel has been a spark plug off the bench. Even Clarice Akanwafo, who averaged fewer than 10 minutes per game this season, has become an important part of the equation. She once again helped shut down UCLA star Lauren Betts, limiting her to 11 points on Saturday. All of them will have to show up for USC to avoid the same fate that befell the Trojans last season. Watkins scored 29 then as a freshman in her first March run, but USC still lost to UConn. This team is more talented and deeper than that one, but anything can happen in the tournament. Fortunately for USC, it has plenty of options to count on, one of which just happens to be the best in the sport. The USC men are tiptoeing along the cut line of the Big Ten tournament. Will they find their way to Indy? As of now, the Trojans and their 6-12 record in the conference would sneak into the tournament as the No. 15 seed, by virtue of their head-to-head win over Iowa in January. But that could change in a hurry if USC can't take care of business against Washington on Wednesday. The Huskies are the worst team in the Big Ten, and the Trojans should beat them in spite of their 5-game losing streak. But in the case that they can't, USC would suddenly be pretty vulnerable. Iowa, also at 6-12, has 2 tough games remaining, at home against Michigan State and on the road at Nebraska, and USC could always win at Pauley Pavilion to lock in its spot. But my guess is Eric Musselman would prefer to limit that suspense heading into the season finale against UCLA. Wesley Yates says he's locked in with USC. Keeping it that way will be goal No. 1 for Musselman this offseason. The redshirt freshman has been a consistent bright spot since entering the starting lineup in December, and he's really rounded into form over the last month. That hasn't translated to success for the Trojans, but Yates is averaging 20 points per game during USC's disheartening stretch of 7 losses in 8 games. USC must keep him at all costs. To be clear, Yates suggested last week that there's no reason to worry about him leaving, And it surely helps that his cousin, Quincy Pondexter, is a USC assistant coach. But this is the transfer portal era, and things change. Musselman can't afford to let that be the case with Yates, who could legitimately develop into a first-round pick someday. USC had 3 players at the combine this week. Cornerback Jalen Smith ran a decent 4.45 40-yard dash after clocking in as the fastest player on the field at February's Senior Bowl, but his 10-yard split, 1.60, was tied for slowest among cornerbacks. Woody Marks probably didn't help or hurt his stock with a 4.54 in the 40, but his shuttle time of 4.24 seconds ranked second among running backs. For offensive lineman Jonah Monheim, measurements might be the biggest concern coming out of the combine. His arm length, 30 1/8 inches, measured the shortest of any lineman in Indy. His hands, 9 1/4 inches, were third smallest at the position. Those measurables are less important on the interior, which is where Monheim will play at the next level. I'm a believer in Monheim's potential to stick with an NFL team as a versatile interior option, but for some organizations, the length of his arms and the size of his hands might be seen as a concern. USC is adding a veteran voice to its offensive staff. John McDonnell is joining USC as an offensive analyst after last working on LSU's staff in 2023. McDonnell brings a ton of experience, over 35 years, primarily along the offensive line, where USC desperately needs to make progress in development this offseason. That picture already looked different ahead of next season. Zach Hansen was moved from tight ends coach to the offensive line in January. My wife and I boldly ventured deep into Hollywood on Oscars night, not to try to snap a red carpet selfie with Timothée Chalamet, though I would take that opportunity if presented with it, but to go to Pantages to see Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. As lifelong Harry Potter fans, we were already the target audience for this particular play. But as always, Pantages delivered an unforgettable night. The show is running through June, so you've got plenty of time to see it for yourself, and with fewer parking issues than I faced Sunday.